I mean, like, I'm a little bit of a snob with some of those things. Like, I love to listen to podcasts on like car rides or like when I'm doing chores and whatnot. And like, if I see a podcast and I'm like, oh, that guest looks interesting, and then I hit play and then it's Zoom audio, like I immediately just open up another podcast. Like, I'm just not going to listen to it. Like, I'm sure there are great podcasts that I'm missing out on, but I just refuse to listen to Zoom audio. So like, even just from that perspective, like, let alone the cameras, like even just having a good audio setup is already like a huge step above. And I mean, like with that one, with Podcast P, like that's where you're kind of like taking it, like if where we were at compared to Zoom, like this is then taking that same, like that same step upwards as far as production and whatnot goes. But of course, I mean, that's something where like, if we could do that with this podcast, I would love to, but I mean, we're not at the point without sponsors. I mean, we have sponsors, but without sponsors that are willing to shell out like 5 figures per episode, like this podcast, this setup is amazing, and this is what we're gonna.
Welcome back to BrewedAt Podcast. I'm your host, Richie Tevlin, joined as always with Evan Blum.
Hello.
And today we have on, I guess this is like a selfie episode, like you're filming yourself. We have on our producer, Liam Nielsenshultz. I'm sorry. I fucked that up. Welcome to the podcast. I feel like you should be at home right now because I fucked up your name. But welcome. 10 seconds ago, I just told you, like, I don't really know much about your history beyond us starting this podcast. So this will be a very interesting episode for me. I guess, do you know much?
A little bit, but not. Not.
You knew Liam before I did, but like I think like very.
I mean, little. I knew Liam through Cole.
Yeah,
Cole knows Liam the most.
So I mean, I don't even know where to start. Like, where do we start with you? I mean, you obviously know how this podcast works, but like, should we start at like where does your story start?
Sure. So I wasn't really a great student in school growing up. I didn't know it, but I have clinical ADHD, and so that was definitely playing a part as a kid. And so when I was in like, I think it was my freshman or sophomore year, I just needed to get an A in something, and so I figured I'd take a film
of high school.
Of high school, yeah. I figured I'd take a film photography class because I figured that's easy enough. And then I ended up just absolutely falling in love with it. Like I thought, like I'm a teenage boy, like I like sports, like art is lame or whatever. Like I was totally in my head about that shit. So I like just shot photos just like in my house. I never took the camera out and about or anything like that, but I continued taking photography classes through school.
It was just photography or was it video?
It was just photography. Yeah. And so that first class was like in a dark room, like taking photos like on film and then like using enlargers and whatnot to, like it was completely old school and it was amazing. And then,
so you need to stop tapping.
Yeah. Tapping with the tapping.
God damn it. Okay. So then I kept on taking classes, and so my senior year, eventually, I just like rented a camera from the school and took it down to Center City to shoot, and then that was when I really just like fell in love with it. I was just kind of having that like that.
What did you shoot? Was it just shooting anything in the city?
Just anything in the city, just walking around with a camera, shooting buildings, shooting shit on the street. Yeah, exactly.
What you went to high school around here?
Yeah, that was at Upper Dublin High School.
Did you? So my high school had a program where like kids would like go around and, like film stuff in high school, and then we had like a morning show. Was there stuff like that where like you guys were like making videos as a class and a club and everything?
There was, yeah, but I was totally focused on photography at that point.
It.
Yeah, I wasn't paying any attention to video. So I did that, like finished high school, and then I continued taking photos, ended up buying a camera, went through my freshman year of college, again, just kind of taking photos here and there. And then eventually it came time. I was just like an undeclared major. I was an undeclared business major my first semester. And then second semester, I was really starting to think like, I think I want to try to transfer to the photography school. So I ended up like, I had to take
Temple?
Like, at Temple. Yeah. And so I had to take like,
what year did you go there?
2017, 2018. That was my freshman year. Yeah, I'm a little young.
We definitely know. I know, but like we could have crossed paths at some point.
Oh, for sure.
Not even knowing.
What was your?
I was 2016 to 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like talked to the admissions people. They put me in a drawing class to help me get into the photography school. And so I fucking hated drawing. I hated drawing so much because like the point of it was to try to get you to learn how to take like you want to envision something in your head and then transfer that to paper like with your hand. But I could envision it and see it in my head like crystal clear, but then I just translate it with a camera. And so it was super frustrating. And then there was one drawing class where I was just like pissed off at the end of it. And I was walking through the school, and then like during the class, because it was like 3 hours long, they had put up graduate students' photo work on the walls. And so I was walking out of this class and I was seeing the graduate students' work, and I was just like, this is not great. Like, this is not inspiring. Like, I'm seeing this, like, these are people that graduated their undergrad and are now going back to do more school, and then this is their work. And it's just like, it just wasn't great.
Like they don't actually want to be a photographer. They're just avoiding graduating.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the story was, but whatever it was, I was just seeing those photos and I was just thinking like, this is just like, I don't want to be here anymore. And again, I was already struggling through school anyways. So then summer comes around and I realized at the end of it that I wanted to try to take a leave of absence. I had gotten one proper event job where they paid me like a couple grand to shoot an event over the course of the weekend. And then that was my first like career sustaining job. Because my first photo job, I had gotten paid $40 to shoot Tinder photos for a guy. Like he just wanted photos for his dating profile.
How did you manage upon that job?
That was he had posted in, it was like just like a Temple students like Facebook group, like that he wanted someone to like take photos for his dating profile.
Oh my God.
And so I figured like I'm a broke college student. Like,
what were the pictures like? Was he posing and like did he have different outfits?
Oh yeah, there was one where that I'll never forget. He was like, we went to this place that had like pool tables, and so he was doing one where he was like shooting like behind the back, but then he was like totally like showing off his muscles. It was ridiculous. So yeah, no, I wasn't doing those jobs anymore, but I got a like real career sustaining job. And then I took my first like,
you were like what, 19 at this point?
Yeah, that was
There's
right.
a lot of money for a 19-year-old.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, for sure. So I took a semester off, and then that was around the time that I discovered video work. And at that point, that was when things kind of started to split off a little bit. Like I started doing photo a little bit more for fun than for work, and then I started doing video a bit more for work. And then that was also when I met Colin, who now he moved to Chicago, but connections through Colin is how we wound up in this space, in this office that I rent.
Was Colin a student at Temple, or how do you meet him?
Yeah, so we were. It was just like one of those times that I was just shooting like just random shit on the street. We were both at City Hall in Dilworth Park. And so then we had, it feels so silly to say looking back on it, but we both had cameras that were like around the same like level of like professionalism. And so he saw my camera and he came over and started talking to me, and we started talking about cameras for a little bit. We followed each other on Instagram, and then that was about it. And then, like probably a few months later, we then ran into each other at a party that a mutual friend was having at Temple. And then that was where we really hit it off.
Nice. And so you weren't in school, but you were still living in the city, kind of just doing events in the city?
No, I was living with my parents at that point.
Okay.
Yeah. So I commuted for my first year of Temple.
Got it.
One and only year.
Got it. And like what events you were doing? Like what? Were you doing weddings or like, different corporate events, stuff like that?
Yeah, I shot I photographed a couple of weddings, and then that was when I realized that weddings were just not for me as far as photo goes. Mm-hmm. Because not a lot of people realize this, but like, of course, unless you've hired a good photographer for your wedding, a photographer is kind of like they are the fucking Jesus Christ of your wedding day. Like whatever happens is going through the photographer. And especially if you don't have a planner, like the photographer is planning your day from top to bottom. And they're really just by your side through that whole thing. And then it's also a really social role. Like you really have to spearhead the day for the couple.
Yeah, I'm like a very monotone person. I feel like you are the same way. And I'm just imagining you like taking pictures of a couple, and it's like, you're not a very bubbly person.
No. Yeah, no, I'm a very blunt person. And so that just does not go well with wedding days, because I just really had to force myself to like be someone that I wasn't for wedding days. And so ironically, I started shooting video for weddings, because those, like, again, the photographer spearheads the day. And then as the videographer, like I was able to kind of like be a little bit more of a fly on the wall. Like I don't have to talk to the couple too much or other people. I mean, obviously I have to talk to people because it's a fucking wedding, but, you're able to take a bit more of a backseat role compared to being a photographer. And that was much more my speed. You still had to be someone that you're not at the end of the day. Like, you still had to put on a smiling face no matter what level of bullshit you're dealing with. But yeah, so I shot a shitload of weddings getting started, and also just like candid stuff at events, corporate things, like all sorts of stuff like that.
Nice. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of still what you're doing, but you started off like building. Did you have a brand, or like how did it start off? Like, you were just like kind of open up like an single member LLC and just started kind of reaching out to people, getting your name out? Like, how did that whole process work?
Pretty much. It started off
like, how does like a corporation, or like how does a business even find you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, again, starting off, my first company name was Liam Gregory Media Co., because that is my middle name. That really rolls off the tongue. But then shortly after starting that,
A little more than your last name.
it's just a little bit more than Nielsenshultz. I was talking with Colin, and then we ended up deciding to start a production company together called Hyphen, which in hindsight is a horrific business name because, like, again, I'll say it for the audience, Hyphen. How do you spell that? Because, like, you should be able to, like, if you hear it, you should be able to spell
Yeah, do you have a lisp, or do you have a talking about hyphen? Or?
Yeah, exactly. It's Hythan, which, again, like, if you can see it, you can say it. But if you hear it, you cannot spell that. But anyways, it was just like we found it from a random number or a random like name generator. And then we just rolled with that. And then it took like,
This one's cool.
yeah, exactly. And so then we realized pretty quickly that we were kind of going at, like, we wanted to take it in opposite directions. Like, he wanted to go more of the production company route, and then I wanted to scale more like the event side of things.
What do you mean production company? Like, he produces like almost like more creative side, or like he's producing like videos, or
like he wanted to take it more in the direction of like working on film sets with crews, like advertisements, things like that. I wanted to do more weddings. And so then I ended up buying his half for about $500. And then I owned Hyphen. And now I don't really operate under Hyphen at all. I just I still have the business account under that name, but I mean, and I also have an old email that's Liam at Hyphen, but that's
Any work, send to that email.
no, we'll get to, I'll tag that at the end. But yeah, so Colin and I, we still worked closely together, but then much more as freelancers, like hiring each other rather than formally being in business together. That was the first part of your question.
That's,
I don't remember.
That's a pretty like at a young age too, to like understand that, like when you were 19, 20.
Oh, I didn't understand it. I think I thought I understood it.
No, it's good for you to go through. When I was like, I went to business school to like learn entrepreneurship, and I'm like, when I'm 31 to go start a business, now it's just like, oh, I don't remember any of that, and like I've never opened up a business before. Or, like, you going through the initial steps of like starting a business, paying your taxes, doing everything you have to do is like, that's a big part of the process. It's like people just don't understand it. If you do it once, it's like kind of just understand it.
I see what you mean. That is very true. Yeah.
And even to know when, like,
but how
I want to go in this direction, you want to go in this direction, let's split, but let's stay together as a team.
And you're what? You're 20 years old at this point?
Yeah,
21?
20. Yeah.
And you're running a business like, you're making a living. That's, I don't know. At most, I was not that level of maturity when I was 19 years old. But I guess the second part of that was like getting customers. Like, is that just like referrals, or like how does that work as far as like, you just decide you're going to be a videographer, but like, all right, then what's the next step?
Yeah. So that's kind of the ever elusive question of what I do. Like, I mean, if anyone knows how to get clients, I would love to know the answer. I'm tapping by accident.
Stop.
So when I was first starting out and I realized I needed a body of work, I started, like, I was just reaching out to people that I knew in the community. I'm not as active in the Jewish community as I used to be, but like I used to go to synagogue pretty regularly, Beth Orr up in Maple Glen. And so I reached out to like some business.
Just find your niche group and just be like, hey.
It wasn't it wasn't even niche at that point. It was just like, I just need videos to be able to show people.
Yeah, but like you reach out to like a group of people, like maybe a message board or something. Like you go to somebody like, here's a group of people, like who needs something.
Pretty much, yeah. Like it was mostly people that I knew, because that way it wouldn't be like it would be people that I already had a prior relationship with, because that way, like, if you post it in like a Facebook group or whatever, you're going to have the people that take advantage of you. And so when you approach someone that you know, it's less likely to have that happen. So just created a body of work. And then after that, that free work was then like out on people's websites and whatnot. People see it. And then like eventually you might have someone that sees a video and they're like, oh, like who made your video? And then they don't know that I did it for free. And so then they refer me. And then then you start getting the actual paid work. And then on top of that, with those videos, then you can start sending those off to people. I did a bunch of cold emails. That was kind of the start. And then really once I got into the production side of things and now doing what I do now as a cinematographer, it's much more so just about simply knowing people, like just meeting people.
And what do you mean, again, stupid question.
No, you're good.
What do you mean by cinematographer? Like what it makes you different from what you were doing before?
Sure. So that stuff was like, again, in the production world, what we kind of call one-man band stuff.
Yeah.
Like where like a company needs a video and so they just hire me. I just show up. I do everything myself. Eventually I started hiring like maybe 1 or 2 assistants just to help me out. But I was kind of just like the head of everything, like from like customer first finds me, doing all of the pre-production, all of that. I was doing all of that on my own. And then I eventually discovered the production world. And then I worked my way up through camera department, did a little bit of grip and electric. So that pretty much means like I was doing, like in camera department, there's a role called the first AC, which is the first assistant camera. Their primary role is the focus puller on a set.
When you guys filmed the video at Victory, that was my first like look behind the veil or whatever, like, oh shit, I didn't realize like what goes into like making a video. There's like all these people with specific roles. Like it's not just one person there like filming it.
100%. Yeah. So I was doing a little bit of focus pulling, and then I started doing a little bit of stuff in the lighting department before I eventually kind of found my footing as a cinematographer.
Is there like a path that most people take as far as like you always start at like grip, you always start at like
No,
what,
I mean,
just everyone kind of finds their own way.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I was very fortunate. I only PA'd, production assistanted, or was a production assistant 1 day for my entire career. And then it was on a set during COVID that was just a shitty low budget movie. Shout out to everyone that worked on it. You know
what is it? What is it?
I'm not going to say the name because it was a terrible film and I fucking hated it. It was, the whole experience was trauma bonding for everyone involved. But I mean, all of those people I'm still close friends with to this day. But I PA'd for 1 day, and then it is so crazy to look back on. I think it was the second day, one of the camera operators, he had a cat that had kittens. And so then it was a complete surprise. Like, cat distribution system just blessed him with this cat, Greta. He's also now my roommate, funnily enough. So Greta had a litter of kittens. One of those kittens died. And so then he had to leave set early. And so in the DP, I had been talking to just with him a little bit about my skill set and whatnot, earlier on before coming on the set. And so he just grabbed me. And then now I started camera operating because he had to go. And so
DP is what?
Director of photography. That's what I do. Cinematographer is kind of what I tell people that don't work in the industry. But then for people that work in the industry, I'm a DP.
Okay. And you're just in charge of everybody else of those minor roles.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So DP is the head of the camera department and the lighting department.
So yeah, I guess compared to now, what we're doing on the podcast real quick, you're in charge of pretty much everything on the podcast.
Yeah.
But what goes through your mind? Cause I know we just changed our lighting a bit recently, all of that. What are you looking for in a way?
On the podcast?
Yeah. Just for the podcast listener, what would you be looking for as a DP?
Can you elaborate just a little bit more? I think you might also not entirely know what you're asking.
Blank slate, you're setting up a set.
Okay.
You have a camera, I need to take a video of you. Are you you're seeing where the first thing is where is the light hitting you? What's the most important thing?
Yeah. So it really all starts, any good shoot starts with good pre-production. So that means that we've kind of loosely figured out a location. And so then I'll go there with a director, usually a producer or someone like that, and then we'll scout the location. So if let's say, the least glamorous but most common job is just interviews and B-roll. That's you can think of like brand anthem stuff. It wasn't at the Victory piece, but things where, again, you just have interviews and B-roll. Like we'll look for different rooms that have, like, usually we'll be looking for a good sense of depth. So that means having a room that like pretty much the walls are not very close together. Like this room, funnily enough, is an absolutely terrible room for shooting it because the wall is super close behind me. There's no depth there. And so we created a little bit of depth.
The best ability is availability, and this room is available.
It is, exactly. So like that's the first thing I'm looking for is just natural depth, like things where I can just put someone down and now we have some space between them and the background. Oftentimes that means like,
because you're just imagining this frame. Like I guess when you take a picture, it's just like that, just continuously.
Exactly.
So you're trying to make like something that looks intriguing looking and
100%. So that's the first thing I'm looking for is natural depth. From there is the lighting. Those things often go hand in hand and not always in that order, but I'm looking for where the natural light is coming in. Again, depending on the room, like if it has massive windows, like that's going to play a much bigger role because now we're going to have to worry about like where the sun is over the course of the day, whether or not we're going to have to shoot towards those windows because that introduces so many problems, whether or not we're going to have to black out the windows. And so then from there, then once you start lighting, you start kind of thinking about like, what's the number one thing that I can't control? And then you want to kind of light around that and then create your plan around that. Because the thing you can't control, you can't really change. And so then from there, that's when you start to create your lighting plan. And then you start to get into kind of the intricacies and the pretentious bullshit. Like, what mood am I trying to create with this lighting? Like, what feeling am I trying to evoke in the person that's viewing it? And it sounds kind of silly, but that really is what my job is. Like, for something like this, like, we want something that feels bright and like kind of uplifts the brand of both the people giving the interview, like BrewedAt, and then whoever the guest is. And so you don't want something that's dark and moody and what would be considered like quote unquote cinematic. Like this is not the most cinematic looking set, but it does exactly the job that we want it to do. And that's also kind of, I mean, I'm digressing a little bit here, but that's kind of also one of the push and pull parts of being a cinematographer is kind of figuring out like, where do I sacrifice the image looking good versus like what actually, like what kind of image I need to create.
I don't know if did you ever meet Kevin Shaw or, there was our college roommate, cinematographer. There were some stories where like Kevin almost got hit by like traffic because like for good image. Like I did a shoot with him and like we're college roommates and he was straight up like in the Wissahickon. We're in Wissahickon and he was just like straight up in the water. Like just like it's the shot's good.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
100%. I mean, that's just what you got to do sometimes.
Yeah.
There was one shoot that I had recently where it was for the New Jersey Board of Tourism. I get horrific motion sickness. I mean, even just not even Tesla Ubers, but just regular Ubers. Like if I'm just sitting in the back, like I just have to be looking straight through the windshield and I'm still going to get motion sick afterwards. But we were going to be going on a ferry around New York. Like we were going to and we're going to be filming on it too. So we were filming these two talent on a ferry.
While you're staring down, like you're not even...
Yeah, exactly. And then also again, like it was while the sun was setting. And so like the waves were super choppy. It was incredibly windy that day. And so fortunately, thank God I was able to, like, I took a new motion sickness medication. I don't remember the meclizine. And that was a lifesaver, but that was one of those where it's just like, I'm going to do this job, whether or not I vomit, we'll see. But like, I'm going to make sure that I shoot what I need to shoot.
Like one of the Jackass videographers with like behind the scenes just throwing up on set.
Oh my God. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I've never had to do anything like that insane, fortunately, but it is also like, and that's also another thing, like just with production in general, like there's so much of that where you got to do what you got to do to get the shot. But then also like in today's day and age where people are conscious of like what the working environment is like for workers, understanding also when you have to kind of, again, like create that push and pull where you got to advocate for yourself a little bit, where sometimes like there might be something that you're asked to do where you're like, this isn't safe. Like there's not a way that we can pull this off safely.
Mm-hmm. So the videos you're making now are obviously much more, I don't know what the right word is. They're much more cinematography. They're not just like they're not like a wedding video. It's like you're making like advertisements and like it's much more like
commercial, like
commercial,
like
And it's artsy is the right word also, but it's like you have like a style. Like at what point and like how did that transition? Were you always trying to get to this point, or like how did it go from like you're taking videos of like, you know, business conferences and stuff to like are you creating projects on the side? Like how does that work? Like do you have a style? Like how?
Yeah, it started with that terrible film that I mentioned. Excuse me. In December of 2020, because I was kind of itching to get into the production world a little bit. I had a bit of a realization where it was like, okay, like this is what I'm doing with the one-man band stuff, but all of a sudden, like my eyes got open to that world of production and how much it takes to like actually make something that looks great. So I'm sorry to cut you off. Was it a horror movie? Because we had Anthony on, and he said he was like working on movies, and it was like, no, it wasn't a horror movie. You'll break in, you know, all the indie films are all horror movies. Yeah, no, it was a thriller, but it was not a horror movie. So I worked on that set. I just there's a thing called Rough Cuts in Philadelphia. There's a Slack group affiliated with Rough Cuts. I found a guy that just posted looking for PAs for that movie. And so I figured like this is my shot to like work on an actual set. Again, calling it an actual set is generous in hindsight, knowing what I know now. But I mean, again, I want to say all the crew is professional and whatnot. It was just the direction and production was a shit show. But that I worked on that movie, and that was when I realized like, holy shit, like it takes so many people to make things great. And then that was when I really kind of got my eyes set on becoming a DP or director of photography. Because like the images that we were making looked fantastic. And that was what I was starting to realize that I was really passionate about. Like I was getting burnt out with the client bullshit. Like I didn't want to worry about all that side of like the producing side of things where you're actually communicating with the client, figuring out budgets and all of that. Like I just wanted the jobs where like you show up, you make beautiful images, and then at the end of the day, you're pretty much done. And that's more or less where I'm at now to an extent.
This episode of the BrewedAt Podcast is brought to you by Zilka & Co., your trusted regional brewing supply partner. Family owned for over 100 years of business, Zilka delivers world-class products at competitive prices with flat $5 delivery fee. No pallet or liftgate charges, thanks to their own fleet of regularly maintained trucks. With locations in Allentown and Hunker and a technical brewer on staff, they provide the expertise and service your brewery deserves. Reach out to Brad Adelson in the show notes and let him know BrewedAt sent you.
Yeah. It's like so much kind of unknown to me. Like you have this equipment is amazing, obviously. Like also like how did you? Is there like stuff that you kind of like break into that? Because this is part of it too. It's just like I didn't understand also up until a couple of years ago. Like you also need equipment. Like there's a whole rental process. Like where do these people get the equipment? It's like. Did you start off with one camera and then like, you know, what was like your kind of steps up from like the different equipment?
I had, my first camera was a Canon T5i, and then I ended up moving up to a Canon 6D. And
for pictures or video?
That was for pictures, and then eventually video. I didn't really do any video on the T5i. I started a little bit on the 6D, and then the camera that really started to that I used to really propel me forward was the Sony A7 III, for anyone that knows it. And so I started off with just one camera, like just one little kit lens.
What do you mean by kit lens?
So a kit lens is, I've never had to explain this before. A kit lens it's just a shitty little lens. Like they cost like $30 to $50. And they're lenses that like manufacturers will often include with their cameras. And so when I bought the T5i, I bought a T5i kit. And so then that came with the kit lens. And that was what
and it's just kind of like a general kind of middle of the range lens.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it's just like a general zoom lens. Like the wide end is kind of equivalent to like your iPhone's like 1x lens. And then like if you were to zoom it all the way in, it's about as zoomed in as like your iPhone's 3x lens.
Okay.
Just for a point of reference. So that's kind of like a standard zoom lens. And then you eventually just kind of start buying equipment as needs arise. There's kind of a phase that every person that's involved with cameras goes through where it's like, people call it GAS, like GAS, gear acquisition syndrome, where like you feel like you just need to collect every piece of gear under the fucking sun. And so you're just burning money, just buying so much gear.
Or reinvesting in your business.
Reinvesting in your business, yeah. But that's also that's how gas gets you, because you say like, I'm just reinvesting in my business, where it's like you already have another one of these lenses that's like 5 millimeters wider. Like, why do you need this one? But yeah, I was heavily reinvesting in my business. Yeah, I mean, just like buying, because sometimes it's nice to have a second camera body. Because again, like obviously this podcast is shot with 2 cameras. It's good to have a second camera body, buying different lenses. That way you're covered for different focal lengths, which means that like from the wide end to the, like the super zoomed in end, like you're kind of covered with those focal lengths and those lenses. So that's kind of like one of the first steps, is making sure that you're covered over a wide focal range. After that was lighting. And then also one of the more fun things is grip equipment. What that means is like, obviously we have it's funny that the audience can't see this, but we have an overhead light, which is just like, it's a 4-foot softbox. So it's not small. And then in order to put that overhead, you have to secure it in a safe way. So that way, like, obviously we can sit underneath it. So there's a pretty large, like, I want to say it's a 9-foot boom pole. And so then that 9-foot boom pole is then counterweighted with a sandbag. And so I'm hoping you guys can kind of
I never like took a close look at that. And like, all right, we're about like all these things like the sandbag taking us from getting crushed. But
yeah, exactly. And so like there's that sandbag counterweighting it. It's on a C-stand. The C-stand is rated for much more than the load that we have on it. And then that C-stand has about 50 pounds of sandbags on it. A C-stand is pretty much just a juiced up light stand. And so this is, again, like, it's super stable. Like, we've left this overnight before.
Yeah.
Like, I have full confidence in it. But then that's where
doesn't see any of it.
Yeah, exactly.
They just see the good lighting.
100%. And that's where things get fun, in my opinion, because like it's one thing to have the lights, but then like you have to obviously get the lights where you need them to be.
You'll see it like when we're just so used to this point. It's like we had it down to a science, like how we set up and break down the studio. But like even when James came in, like when our guests come in and like they've seen the podcast before, and like, oh shit, this is kind of how it's set up. This is like I
haven't thought about.
I mean, before we were on this podcast, I had never been on something like this before, and like most of the guests probably have never done something like this before. So they're like sitting in their spot with all the cables going everywhere. It's got to be. I mean, it's unique to me, but to us, but like we've seen it so often. This studio, but like, I mean, there's a lot going on here.
For sure. And it's something that I know guests have talked about before, how, like, of course, it's cool to come onto the podcast in the first place. But then for so many people, like, it's such a neat experience for them to be actually like be under the lights and be in a professional filming environment like this. Because a lot of people don't experience that regularly.
Yeah. It's fun.
We're kind of spoiled in that. Like, we're genuinely really spoiled.
We're spoiled. We've done like what 55 episodes now, but it's like it feels like very comfortable here. But it's got to be. I remember the first couple episodes. It was just like I'm not.
Yeah, yeah, and that seemed like it was kind of the case for everyone across the board.
Yeah.
You could tell when people were nervous or just like all the cameras. Like to me, like I'm gonna imagine you too. Like cameras don't even mean anything.
No, I like it now, but it's like, but yeah, it was kind of like different. But so just to skip ahead, I mean, a couple weeks ago, you were filming like Paul George, Gilly, and Wallow. Like, I'm sure that they just thrive under the lights, but like something like that is probably like a much more like what's the difference between like a set like that and a set like this? Are you making it more cinematographic? Like or like I don't know. I know that's not the right word, but like designing it better because like it's because they're ultra famous. Like you're trying to like kind of hit certain angles or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so I was just camera operating on that one.
Okay.
But the difference between a set like that and this one, I mean, really like I was mentioning earlier with Location Scouts, the first and foremost thing is depth. Like a set like that was quite a bit bigger. That one we had, I want to say 4 cameras running. And so then that was a solo camera on every single person, and then a wide camera capturing everybody.
So 5 cameras.
5 cameras, yeah. And then another thing is that one was shot in an actual studio. And so those had, they're called trusses overhead. And so the trusses, and then there are also things called speed rails, which are pretty much just metal pipes that are running like overhead. And then what those allow you to do is then hang lights from those speed rails. And so in that way, like you can pretty much put lights wherever the fuck you want overhead of the talent. And so then that gives you much greater control over the lighting on the set. So those are kind of the 2 biggest things. What were you going to say?
It just like why one of the reasons why our podcast is different than everybody else is because we're in this space.
Yeah.
And it's like we're not doing it over Zoom. We're not doing it, in just someone's basement. And it's really like you feel way more connected to people, like when they're like, yes, this does not feel natural with these lights, but when you're watching it, it makes you feel like an emotion. Like it makes you feel connected to the video more than just like looking at something on a Zoom call.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And that's a huge part of it. I mean, like just simply I mean, like I'm a little bit of a snob with some of those things. Like I love to listen to podcasts on like car rides or like when I'm doing chores and whatnot. And like if I see a podcast and I'm like, oh, that guest looks interesting, and then I hit play and then it's Zoom audio, like I immediately just open up another podcast. Like I'm just not going to listen to it. Like I'm sure there are great podcasts that I'm missing out on, but I just refuse to listen to Zoom audio. So like even just from that perspective, like let alone the cameras, like even just having a good audio setup is already like a huge step above. And I mean like with that one, with Podcast P, like that's where you're kind of like taking it, like if where we were at compared to Zoom, like this is then taking that same, like that same step upwards as far as production and whatnot goes. But of course, I mean, that's something where like if we could do that with this podcast, I would love to, but I mean, we're not at the point without sponsors. I mean, we have sponsors, but without sponsors that are willing to shell out like 5 figures per episode, like this podcast, this setup is amazing, and this is what we're going to continue.
So John Bryce, the guy that runs the Brewers Association podcast that James said he worked with, I knew someone that was like on the accounting team for the Brewers Association, and he like told me the numbers. I was just like, holy shit. You make real money doing this stuff.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, like I think that his is just through Zoom also, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think like I just know this just from working in the advertising world, like with okay, so there was one thing that I shot recently. Again, I was just camera operating on this one, but it was for Secrets Resorts. I think that's Hilton or Marriott, one or the other. I don't remember off the top of my head. Big hotels, yeah, own secret resorts. And so and we were shooting in, I just tapped the table. We were shooting in Love Park. But we couldn't have the Love part or like the Love sign in the background of any shots because it was going to cost somewhere in 7 figures to license it.
Oh my God.
And so as far as I knew, like they would like the client would have been okay with paying 6 figures, but 7 figures is a little bit too much. And so when it comes to advertising, like the amount of money that people have to spend is just unbelievable. Like I think if people were to hear the number, like I don't know what Joe Rogan gets paid, but I think if people were to
$500 million. 7 years ago, and then he just signed a $250 million re-up with Spotify, I think.
I didn't hear about that. I believe it though.
And again,
the most listened podcast,
and that's also just from Spotify. Like if people were to hear exactly, like if people were to hear the numbers that he's getting paid for sponsors, like they would shit a brick. Like it's unbelievable the amount of money that's out there for these podcasts.
Yeah, it is.
It's just like a new medium too. Like
yeah,
it's ever growing. There's a statistic that we were looking at. Because like as we look to grow the podcast as well, I think it was like oh gosh, I'm not gonna remember the number specifically, but maybe like 40 to 50%, and I'll fact check this, of like
no fact checks. Full send.
Gen Z, like
don't come in here, Cole.
But like it is a new medium of media, which is really cool. But like now you're seeing it, and everybody's growing that way, and it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's not even. I don't know if it's that new, but it's like
it is like radio in a way,
and maybe it's just
streaming.
Yeah, maybe just because like I'm now being exposed to it, but I feel like maybe the technology has gotten better or something, or it's just more accessible, but like you're able to create these videos that like CNN could not, like 25 years ago, CNN was producing something that was like, you know, like this, but like now you as an individual, you know, business is able to create a set like this. That's like, it's just, you know, it's different. It's more accessible.
Yeah, for sure. And then put that in people's pockets to listen to whatever they want.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. Like, I mean, like there, like in days of old, there were certain radio shows that you could listen to, but you can only tune into them if you were in certain parts of the country. Whereas now you can just take any of those and just put them in your pocket.
You were right, Ed.
Hell yeah. Dude.
So you said when you before when you were talking about you and Colin, like Colin was like more of like the production stuff, and you wanted to do kind of like more of, you know, the corporate stuff. Do you have any desire to do like movies or more storytelling, things like that, or are you strictly like your passion is more just like, you know, this is your business, this is how you're kind of operating?
Yeah. So looking back on that, funnily enough, Colin was right at the end of the day, because I totally am doing more of the production stuff now. And then that's also what he's doing. But with as far as movies go, I'm at a weird point in my career.
Yeah, but I guess, was he doing any creative stuff also, or he was doing like production stuff, kind of exactly what you're doing now?
Yeah.
Did he ever do any like movie stuff?
I mean, like everyone has done a little bit of short films, but never anything serious. And so I'm at a weird point in my career now where like instead of doing a bunch of the passion stuff first and then starting to get more into the paid end of it, I'm kind of on the other end of things. Like I've focused, it's a good problem to have, but I focus too much on like the corporate stuff. And so now I'd like to
it's nice to get paid, like learn somebody else's time, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I want to be clear. I'm very happy to be making money, but now I want to do more of those passion things and like more narrative pieces. But it's also a weird spot to be in because like, I have no idea how to say this without sounding like a pretentious dickhead, but like I don't want to shoot stuff for free if it's not worth it. Yeah. And so like I would need to, like, it needs to kind of be like the right script with the right director in order for me to want to take it on as a passion project. And those things, of course, I appreciate it. Thank you, man. Those things, of course, come around, but it's there are a lot more shitty short films out there than there are good short films.
Definitely.
So I definitely want to do more of it. I don't know about movies. I worked on a feature. I was shooting BTS on a feature. It was for, again, anyone that knows me that's listening to this is going to know of Danny Gewirtz's film, I Think I'm Sick. But I shot BTS on that for him for his YouTube channel. And so that was a really cool experience to be able to work on a feature film. But it was 20 shoot days. We had, I want to say like around a 20-person crew for all that time. And it was an amazing experience to be able to bond with those people because, again, you're doing 20, like 12-hour days.
What is the structure that, like, you come in as like a DP, but like, and you're in charge of lighting and cameras, but like when you get larger into something like that, are there like different, like, what is the structure of management for like film production? Is there like a normal thing, or is it just kind of, every film or every project is different? Yeah,
so I mean, I'll talk about because that I Think I'm Sick was DP'd by Carlos Stigliano. I'll talk about one that I did do, which was a piece for Drexel Ice Hockey. That one, and this is kind of, was that
great video?
Oh, thank you, I appreciate it. The core of it, so you have like usually a producer, your director, your DP, and those are kind of like that's your core. And again, like bigger sets are going to start to branch that out. Under those departments, you're going to have like oftentimes you might have a first AD, which is a first assistant director. Their job is pretty much to make sure that everything runs on time. Excuse me again. And as a DP, they're kind of like my best friend and my worst enemy because like they'll be asking me if I'm trying to light a scene, they're going to be asking me like, how much longer do we think lighting is going to take? Because my answer is going to determine whether or not we stay on schedule, if they have to move things around or something like that. And so Colin was the first AD on that Drexel hockey thing, and he did a killer job. We knew we were going in with a packed day, and he had to move stuff around as we were shooting. And so we were able to, it's called making the day. Like if you make the day, that means that you shoot everything that you want to shoot over the course of the day. And so we made the day, not without severe schedule changes, but we made the day. Then under me as the DP, I'm the department head for camera department and then lighting department. And so camera department, like I mentioned earlier, the first AC, first assistant camera, and usually you'll also have a second AC, which is a second assistant camera. That's someone that's like if you see videos of people like doing the slate where like it's just the clapperboard, that is what the second AC does. That's the super overhead version of, or super bird's eye view version of that, without going into all of the different other rules that a second AC has that I would have to explain a lot more in order to make sense. G&E, grip and electric, you're going to have a gaffer and then usually a grip. And again, that's like your core, it kind of branches out after that. Gaffer determines what kind of lights you need and what kind of lighting you want to create. And then grips get the lighting there. So if, again, like with this overhead, like I might talk to my gaffer and say like, I want to have like some sort of soft overhead light, and then the gaffer would say like, oh, well, we're going to use like this fixture, so for this it's a Nanlite 150, and then we're going to need to put a 4-foot softbox on it. Then a grip's job is then to put up the stand and then actually hang the light and then get it there safely. So then again, those rules will kind of branch downwards. So like on big movies and like feature film sets, you're also going to have a thing called a best boy, which is your electrician. Because again, like this light is an LED, 150 watts. You're not going to need to worry about blowing any breakers with that. But when you're working on movies, like you might have like a 4K LED or a 4K HMI, which means that it's pulling 4,000 watts. Like you can't just plug that into your fucking wall outlet. You're going to need a generator. And now you're going to have to worry about like power distro and all those sorts of fun things. Yeah, exactly.
Think about.
And so again, like this is not mentioning so many other rules. And so then as well, you're going to have art department. Art department is huge because art department is kind of what's creating your world. And so like things like these posters on the wall, like that's
shout out Cole in art department.
Yeah, exactly. Like these posters are something that like art department would do, or again, like that plant right there, where you're kind of, you're dressing the set in order to kind of build that world that you're trying to create. So that's kind of like, again, super baseline overview of the rules on a film set. But I mean, at the core, you're always going to have producer, director, DP, and then you're going to have like camera and lighting departments.
So you're
in some form.
As all cool people, you dropped out of college, but like, do most people like that you're working with, like on sets, do you need a college degree? Do most people kind of like come to this, organically? Like how does one start? You just kind of break in somehow?
For sure. I mean, like really anyone can go and start to work in the film industry because like really a PA, a production assistant, they're just a warm body. Like if you have, I mean, even a semi-functioning brain and you can walk around and you can use your hands, you can be a PA. So literally anyone can PA. And that's oftentimes how pretty much everyone gets started because you don't need any qualifications. The pay's shit, the work sucks, but like that is how you kind of get an in the film industry. And then from there, like you can then PA with like different departments. So like you might be a camera PA or a G&E PA. What was that one?
It was tabbing.
Is this tabbing? But I don't know if he's just fucking with us.
Oh no, I probably am. I mean, because I keep like I just move around constantly, and so I touch the table and immediately like recoil my hands.
To all the guests, it's not just you.
But yeah, so like PAing is how you kind of get started. You don't need a film degree, and I think film degrees can. I don't know. I don't want to make too many hot takes on here, but they can sometimes give a false sense of security because you'll go through film school, you'll build up a skill set doing whatever it is that you want to do, and you'll think like, okay, like I'm ready to go and be a DP. You're not. Like you need to, because a film school set is not a real life set. Like you're not dealing with the pressure of a client or an agency or things like that.
I think that's college.
Anthony was talking about that. Like he was talking about like Full Sail was like it was more realistic because it was 12-hour days. But I'm sure what he's doing now is like it felt more real than like.
Bless you. Bless you.
Oh my god! It felt more real than like a just a classroom setting.
Yeah.
But like, I'm sure everything that you're doing, like every set is different. So you're going to go, everything is.
Every client's different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like, even just like simply the people that you're working with, it was really weird to me when I started DPing. Like I still do to some extent, but imposter syndrome, because like there was one set that I was working on where my first AC, my focus puller, he was in his 40s and he had kids. And I was like, I was barely 21 years old and I had moved out of my parents' house a couple of years ago. So it was like, people often think I'm older than I am. So like we never talked about age. It was never weird, but it was one of those things where I was like, I was driving home and I was just like, what the fuck? Like there was a person that I was kind of like, I was his boss for the day and I was asking him to do things. And like, he's like so much farther along in life than I am. But like those are things that film school doesn't really prepare you for, because you're working with other students. And I mean, that's of course one thing when you're a department head and then there's someone older than you that's working under you. But then when it's someone older than you that you're working under, like when you're a first AC working for a super experienced DP, they're going to ask you to do things that you're not going to know how to do. And then depending on your experience, like you'll deal with that however you deal with it. But it's just not something that film school will prepare you for, and like just the pressure on a film set in general too.
You mentioned before rough cuts.
Yeah.
And I know, do you run rough cuts now?
Yes and no.
Can you explain what rough cuts is? Because we talk about it all the time and I still have no idea what it is. So can you explain what it is and then like how you're involved with it?
It's also like, for the listeners, it's also filmed in the same building.
Oh yeah, I'll explain all that.
Okay.
Yeah. So Rough Cuts is it's a film screening that's open to the public, and so it's the main goal is to get feedback from other filmmakers. So it happens on the first Wednesday of every month. It's an open sign-up sheet, first come, first serve. Everyone gets 15 minutes, so you can either show a 10-minute film and get 5 minutes of feedback, or a 5-minute film and get 10 minutes of feedback, whatever you want to do.
It's 10 and 5 minute films, or people show portions of what they're doing?
It'll be totally across the board. So then another thing, it's usually from 7 to 9 p.m. And so like there will usually be like people start arriving around like 6:30ish. And so then people mingle and talk beforehand. And then again, we go to a bar, standard tap afterwards. And so then again, that's where the conversation kind of gets continued.
Grab space cadet at standard tap while you're at it.
Exactly. There you go.
How do we get sponsors involved to rough cuts at some point? That's a thought process. But
so you like some people show like you might show a 30-second commercial and then talk about it the whole time. Some people will use the bar as their feedback afterwards. So they might show like 15 minutes of a film that might be much longer. And then they'll just say like, all right, we'll talk about it afterwards. And then they give the mic to the next person. So it's really cool. And yeah, it's hosted in this space. It's an event space called Huddle. That's kind of, viewers don't know the space, but it's across the garage from here. Yeah, and I mean, me and Colin, we were going to Rough Cuts I started going in 2019, and
it was already established.
Yeah, it was already established. They've been going since 2015.
Wow, cool.
So it's been a while.
Were you even in this space yet when you were going to Rough Cuts?
No. So it's hosted by two people now, Ryan Scott and Nick Justice. So it used to be held at a WeWork kind of close by. But then they went virtual in 2020 for like because of COVID, and then they were starting to look for a new space to be able to start holding Rough Cuts physically again. And then around that time, the agency that we rent our office from, well, I say we, even though Colin isn't in the office anymore, they had to set up like a projector and surround sound over in Huddle, and so then like we had just finished setting that up. They started looking for a space. And then the stars kind of all aligned for us to reach out to them and be like, hey, like we might be able to host Rough Cuts. So while I don't host Rough Cuts, I'm usually the one like running the computer, like showing the films, making sure it all goes smoothly. And then Ryan and Nick are very much our hosts and kind of the faces of Rough Cuts.
Are there like highlights of it? Like, do you remember like certain things coming through and like or people coming through?
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's like, because of the first come, first serve nature of it, like you can have the shittiest of student films. Everyone should make no student film is shitty. It's a learning experience, blah, 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 blah. You can have the shittiest of student films followed up by like a commercial that had a 6-figure ad spend behind it. So there's just such a wide range of
it's probably good for like people that have been in the industry for a while to even come to it to see the basic stuff. Because I'm sure you get kind of caught up in your own bullshit to see where people are starting off. Like, oh, I haven't thought about this in a while.
Oh, totally. And there's something for everyone in that regard. Like sometimes kind of like, in my opinion, some of the like, there isn't really much of a good and a bad rough cuts, but the quote unquote like worst rough cuts, in my opinion, are the ones where you kind of have people just showing absolutely stellar work, because then it makes people that might be just starting out or kind of at a more beginning phase of their career, like just seeing
this
stuff.
Is good.
Yeah, exactly. Like, sure, it looks great, but like that's something that feels so unattainable to them. And so the best rough cuts, in my opinion, are things where you have stuff like just from people that are just starting out all the way up to stuff that is like, I don't know, like higher ed content is like a common one. So those things where you just have a wide range, those are the best rough cuts, in my opinion.
Are there other communities like that in Philly?
There are some. I don't remember the names of them off the top of my head. Rough Cuts is the one that's been going for the longest, though, and definitely has the best attendance as far as I know. Yeah.
How many people show up to Rough Cuts?
It's anywhere from like 50 to 80, I'd say. It really just depends on the month.
Do you run all your more like bigger projects through it? Like, do you actually use it as like a?
Oh, of course, absolutely, yeah. Like I did an IndyCar thing, and I wasn't able to.
That was very cool.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I remember you doing like the color adjustment on it.
Yeah,
the one that you showed us.
Yeah, and so I wasn't able to be there when Colin showed it, but Colin showed like a much earlier rough cut of it, in order to be able to get feedback and kind of figure out where we were at. And it's definitely something where people use it, again, wide range of reasons. Like sometimes people will show stuff like simply because they want to show off, and then kind of get feedback on their finished piece, things to look for the future. And then sometimes people will literally show like the first rough cut that they have of something in order to kind of get ideas on like where it should go. I mean, sometimes like there's one really awesome director. Her name's Joy. I don't remember her last name, unfortunately, but like she showed the intro of a short film, and she showed two or three different versions of the intro. And so every single one was cut slightly differently. And so then she had questions about like what we thought about like which one we preferred, what tone was conveyed between each of the three, things along those lines. So it's really like, it's really just an open forum for filmmakers. It's really cool.
Do you have like a style that is like signature to you? Is there something that like you lean on as far as like lighting or shadows or depth, or I don't even know what else to ask? Like,
yeah, I really have no idea, which I know is also the worst possible answer, but it's like, I feel like if I were to, like the last time that I was kind of just like loosely redoing my website, like I was looking at my work and I think I can like definitely distinguish a style. Like I think, I don't know, again, it feels weird saying this as myself, but I feel like I can see myself in my style.
Yeah.
And like, I think I can see the things that kind of separate my images from the images of other DPs. Not that they're better or worse, but I really have no idea how to put my finger on it. Because it's such I mean, talking about qualifying art is such like an intangible thing, because a lot of it
is art.
It's the feeling. Yeah, it's art, but then it's also like kind of the feeling that you're evoking from it. And so there are definitely some, like, I definitely enjoy moodier lighting. I really like color contrast in my images. I really like when I'm able to like light things with like super saturated colors and then kind of bring them down a little bit in post. Like, for example, like with the street lights that are common in Philly, like those are called sodium vapor lights, like the lights that are like super orange, like things where you're kind of embracing that, like that natural warmth to the lights. And so again, you can kind of create that by using lights that are just warmer in nature. Again, for filmmakers, like I'm talking like bicolor LEDs or tungstens, but like embracing those things, moodier images, things along those lines. But it's so like, it's hard because you're really thinking about how can you evoke emotions with these images. And I think some of those emotions and like kind of intangible things are things that kind of like tie every DP's work together in a sense. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely. So you obviously, I mean, I see like what you're putting out now, like when we catch up like every other week. Like I've seen like who you're working with. I'm like, holy shit, like you're very talented. But you're so young. Do you have like goals as far as like certain like big projects that you want to work on, or different things that like when you got into this, you're like you've always thought like, all right, if I've done this, like that's kind of like a lengthy goal of mine?
Yeah, like the number 1 and 2 things, I think not necessarily in this order that I'm kind of aiming for, are like one, having a national ad of some kind.
Yeah,
I wanted to have a local ad. I was able to. I shot a thing for the Phillies, and so then that was.
I saw that. Yeah, that was last summer, right?
Yeah, that was a little while ago, and so then that was running for a little bit. So I was kind of able to like check that one off. Like I had a local ad. And so the next thing is kind of being able to shoot a national ad campaign of some kind, like something that'll be displayed nationally. And then another one is a Super Bowl ad of some kind.
Oh my God. Hell yeah.
I've already checked that box.
For real?
Wait.
I was in the Wawa Super Bowl ad when they were in the Super Bowl 2 times. Not last time.
You remember
before that.
Wow.
It was me just like pumping my fist for 3 seconds during the film.
Yeah. And I imagine even just that 3-second clip, like how long were you on set to be able to get that?
My phone blew up. I've never gotten so much attention my whole life. It was crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's my claim to fame.
Put that on your IMDb.
Yeah, that was top of my list on my resume.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'd love to shoot a Super Bowl commercial. Those are kind of like the
well, like commercials that's kind of like I guess you deal with businesses, like that's kind of like what you like. I guess the Super Bowl commercial is the Super Bowl of commercials.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. I mean, it's something that like as filmmakers and like talking to other DPs and people in the industry, like I very much admire. Like they're usually called big game ads, like Pepsi's big game ad, like 2025 or whatever the fuck. So like I love watching good advertisements, like the advertisements that are not like in your face, like the stuff for like a fucking washing machine. I know people that shoot washing machines. Your stuff looks great. But those things where like, it's just like a bunch of beautiful images back to back. And you're like, what the fuck did I watch? And then they show a brand at the end. Like,
I feel like the Super Bowl is almost like rough cuts for the best commercials of all time.
Oh, for sure.
It's
yeah.
Like some people watch the commercials more than they watch the actual game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like little short films of,
And it's so much fun as a commercial filmmaker to be able to watch those things and kind of see like, oh, like, I don't know, like I know, like looking back in my career, like I can remember when I was watching those ads just like simply full of awe and admiration that someone was able to pull that off.
Definitely.
And then now as I'm getting closer, I'm starting to like some of those ads, like you can start to see like, oh, like I can kind of see how they lit this, or I can see what was going through their head. And then like some of them, like the really amazing ones are the ones where you kind of just get fully sucked in. Like you stop thinking about the production
even
process.
You, it's like you've seen behind everything, you understand how it works, and like even you're still like just looking at this like, this is just great.
100%. Yeah. And I don't want to put myself on a pedestal, but it's kind of like similar to a good movie, like where you just get fully sucked into the story, time disappears, and you're just like fully enveloped in that world. Like those, again, like I always love
I mean, to do it in 30 seconds, it's almost more difficult. I mean, 30 seconds, you have to grab somebody's attention and get them sucked into it.
It's so fast. I mean, 30 seconds, like it is so fucking fast to make a video. And
it's
like
the TikTok of movies.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just like make a video, but then also like it's not a video, it's make a compelling story.
And and some companies paying you to do it. So it's a compelling story for then you to spend more money as a customer.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also so weird too, because with like 30 seconds, if like 30 seconds feels really short when you're used to 60s, but then when you're used to 30s, 15s will feel really short. But then also kind of going in the opposite direction, like after you shoot a 15, like you then get a 30 and you're like, holy shit.
I'm making
like,
a movie.
It's so long. Yeah. Like I've literally doubled the time to work with, but like it's 30 seconds at the end of the day.
Are you seeing more people like companies hit you up about like online stuff as opposed to TV commercials?
Yeah. I mean, TV stuff, at least for what I do, it's not nearly as common. And again, that's just kind of that part of that is also just the tier of DP that I'm at.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing agency stuff frequently, but not regularly.
Yeah. What do you mean by agency stuff?
So that's where a lot of your like your TV spots will come in, because usually you have
Like a marketing agency will then figure out and then they'll hire you.
exactly, and not just marketing agency, but like a marketing agency that's responsible for ad placement, because you'll there are some agencies that are dedicated solely to the creative side, but then like if you want to get like with the Phillies, for instance, like they'll always have stuff up on the billboards that you see off of 95.
Yeah.
Like the Phillies, they work with an ad agency that's responsible for actually getting those ads up on the billboards, and so that's ad placement, and so then that's also where TV ads come in, and like that's where the Phillies thing that I shot comes in.
Cool.
So like that was with an agency that was responsible for ad placement. That agency was Truth and Consequences. They also do the billboard stuff. They do a bunch of amazing work.
Yeah, like billboards are now becoming ads. Like I feel like half the billboards on 95 are video billboards as opposed to just like still images.
Really?
Yeah, it's like it's getting a lot. Like they're probably just like it's cheaper, and like they're realizing that they don't have to like have somebody climb up this like giant billboard or like replace the things. It's a lot easier. Just like upload these images.
There's time too. Like you're spending probably half as much because you're getting half them out at Kime or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean those agencies do it for stills as well. Like I haven't seen any video billboards.
On 95, you'll start to see them on 95, especially north of Philly. There's a lot of them.
Okay.
And then on 676, there's a bunch. And then in West Philly, like on Schuylkill, there's a bunch. The Bougie Mutt had a couple videos.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, now you can't take your phone out when you're driving, but like I was driving on the highway a couple weeks ago, and it was like the Bougie Mutt. I was like trying to take I can't do this.
I'm gonna have to keep an eye out. Some of those just like the injury law, like billboards, just like blend into the background for me. I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for those video billboards.
Top Dog Law.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. Yeah.
They everywhere.
John Morgan.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Cool. So I guess what's new? I mean, what's upcoming for you? Do you have anything upcoming besides growing the BrewedAt podcast into a national podcast?
Well, right now I'm working on a little piece for a company called Game On State. They're a really cool nonprofit.
That's cool.
They're kind of I'm not even going to bother to really explain what they do, but what they do is empower people with like disabilities, or I don't know what the politically correct way to say that is these days, but empowering people with disabilities, like kind of giving them jobs and things like that. It's really cool and really wholesome. It's always awesome when jobs like that come around, because of course working with corporate stuff, like it's just not, it's not always the most fulfilling thing in the world.
Definitely.
So when you have a nonprofit job come along that actually feels good and you know is making a difference, like that's always great. So I'm shooting that. That's the main thing that I'm working on at the moment.
So where can people find you? Like, people are listening, they're like, all right, I want to talk to you. Like, I have an idea. I want to make it happen. Like, do they just hit you up on the website?
Yeah. So my Instagram is Liam NTZ. So that's LIAM and then November Tango Zulu. Liam NTZ on Instagram. But that's where all my work is. You can email me from there and whatnot.
Cool. That's funny. That's like now it's like where you find yours just like on Instagram. It's like 10 years ago that like was not the case, but like it makes so much sense. Like this is my profile. Hit me up. Just talk to me directly.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's all it is. Like I have my website there. I have a contact form and whatnot, but then like that way you can just pull it up and just get a surface level overview of my work. And it's also just like what makes sense for creatives too. Like I would love to not be on social media, but it's just like you just can't not these days. But yeah, it's so easy to be able to just have everything just all in one place like that.
Definitely. Cool. Do you have anything you want to plug?
Hire me.
Hire Liam.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, and go on, like, even if you don't have a project, go on your Instagram, check it out. It's very cool.
Thank you.
Got a lot of great work.
I just post stuff that looks pretty.
Exactly. I mean, that's your job.
Yeah.
Cool. Then you can find us at BrewedAt, at the BrewedAt Podcast, and we'll see you next week.
See you. Sweet.